31. Bill. You are coming to the dinner tonight. I had no idea why my father still insisted that I perform the sun act, especially today after everything. Did he want me to show off wrapping bandages? Did he want me to apologize for Constance? That latter was not happening. Maybe he intended to, but he illuminated me. It was always a possibility. I stood in front of my long mirror looking at myself, all dressed up and ready to go to the three-piece suit and pocket square. The sun had set so I had the small table lamp behind me. It cast strange shadows, and my face looked even more gaunt. I removed the bandages and cleaned up the cut on my forehead. It was smaller than I imagined under the wrappings, but still stung to the touch. I pushed my hair forward to hide it. It looked unkempt. Not usually slicked back appreciated appearances. I like that. I like not looking created. Even as I thought, twisted with discomfort in my belly. How could I just go to dinner after everything? How could it be night again soon? How could I even let through another night without thinking about everything? While this green fear in my stomach, I could hear the wind blowing outside, the branches of the large oak tree tapping at my window. This happened when the wind blew, and I was used to it. As a child, I'd been so scared of it, thinking a ghost was floating just outside, and I hid my head under the covers for fear of seeing anything. The branches tapped again, and I was compelled for some reason this time to glance over at the window, at the darkness that loomed just outside the house. A black silhouette of the face inside my second-story window. I stumbled backward, tripping on my heels, my heart beating fast. It was possible. It was a trick of the light, surely. Old memories hunting me. I looked again. The face was gone. I steadied myself and took a deep breath. I was terrified. I approached the window slowly to look out. I looked at the tree branches creaking in the wind, saw the road and the sidewalk. I saw emptiness. I knew what was happening. I had read enough books to know that how people dealing with the guilt and fear made their nightmares as reality. It was all my fault, all of it. I had been told to keep it secret. And what have I done? Show it off like some trophy because I like a girl? So it was Constance's fault then. No, that was wrong and thoughtless. Something my father will say. He will find anyone else to blame. He was the master at it. I backed away slowly from the window and turned toward my room. I noticed how dark it was, how the single lamp on my mirror made the corners all that much darker, like shadows sweeping into the room. I tried to shake the feeling and return to the mirror, to straighten on my tie. My hands were trembling, but I almost used to that now. Fear was starting to become part of me, never leaving, always there, in charge. I heard the sound and whipped around to look into the dark corner of my room. There was nothing. Of course there was nothing. Why couldn't I control this fear? It was unmanly. And not have some self-control, Bill. You aren't a child anymore. You're almost 18. There aren't ghosts outside your window. There aren't monsters under your bed or hiding in the shadows. And yet, they do exist underground, here, in Atlantic City, not so far away. My eyes focused in on the dark, on the emptiness. I felt the pull like I had it in my room with the machine. I felt drawn into the darkness. It reminded me of the feeling when you are standing on the high balcony and looking down at the ground and you know you aren't going to jump. But maybe. I shook my head. No. I refused to allow my head to go there. I turned my back to the mirror and saw the tall black silhouette standing behind me. I jumped and turned, my heart in my throat, my breath straight and tight. Nothing, no one. Still in my mind's eye, I could see a figure, less like a shadow. I stared into the darkness once more. I took in a deep breath and walked slowly toward the corner, reaching my hands out in front of me just to see, just to know, just to touch. I must be losing my mind. My fingers touched the wall, not only empty blackness and the spot where the two walls met. I released a sigh and felt my body relax. My mind was still racing. I turned and leaned against the wall, staring now at the lamp that seemed far away somehow, even if it was just across the room. There was a kind of madness. It had to be. I slipped down and sat on the ground. I placed my hands next to me on the floor just to ground me, to make me solid and not a mass of shaking jelly. The floor was wet. I raised my hands. They were covered in black ink. "There is my boy. Better late than never," boomed my father as I entered the private room on the second floor of the restaurant. I felt strangely winded but I knew it wasn't because of the stairs. I had rushed to change my inky clothes and then hide them under my bed, like a child hiding an appropriated novel from a parent. My hands were still stained, and no matter how hard I washed them, fainter now, but still with a coating of black. I put on my gloves but already was feeling out warm. I was a disaster. I couldn't do this, but I had to, so I smiled and laughed and gave an awkward wave at the gathered crowd. It was more than just a man from New York this time. I was relieved to see there was also this usual gang I was familiar seeing at my father's parties. There was Mr. Brown, and Turgot and her daughter, and Mr. and Mrs. Sawyer, being quietly shying on the edges of the crowd. There was also a few others I didn't recognize. Everyone was milling about, drinking cocktails, and I joined Madame toward and say hello. "Goodness, but you're growing up so fast," she said as he kissed the air beside each other's cheeks. "Well, you can change a bit," I replied as she laughed, and I felt myself relax slightly. Mindless small talk, but there was comfort in that. "Gent, it's contracting firm base here at the office all over Eastern Seaboard." I turned so fast, my drink got over the side of my glass. I stared at one of the most beautiful women I ever seen. And I see plenty here in Atlantic City. We didn't just have singers and dancers, we have guests all over the world, and we hosted it. And yet I stared at this woman. She seemed to glow from the inside out, dressed in an all-white satin gown that glittered in the light. Her hair was so blonde it almost matched. She was an angel. The angel noticed me. "Yes?" she asked it with her lovely, delicate voice. "I'm so sorry. I heard you say something about Gent." I floated over to her. It felt suddenly as if there was no one else in the room. She smiled, and I just about to die. It felt like an arrow to the heart, but a strangely good way. "My boyfriend is the manager for the company," she said. "Your boyfriend?" I thought of Mr. Connor, gruff, round around the edges. Mr. Connor, was he the manager? I thought he was, but he couldn't be, could he? Not if this elegant creature was the manager's partner. Yes. Thomas Connor, fine fellow, brilliant mind, tedious creationist. A tall man with an elegant suit and twinkle in the eye joined us. "Joey Drew," he said, extending his hand, and I took it. Wasn't he the man Mr. Connor had been talking about? The memory was foggy, filled only with images from last night. I couldn't push past them, all to focus on the conversation. "Nice to meet you," I said as we shook hands. "I'm Bill Chambers." "The son!" said Joey. "I am." "Well, it is a pleasure. This lovely creature is the famous actress Alison Pendle. I assume you heard of her." I smiled to indicate that I had, but to be fairly honest, I have not. "If you hadn't heard her, you definitely heard her. She voices my darling Alice Angel." Alice Angel? What was that so familiar? Joey Drew. "You're the animation man," I said, finally understanding. "Joey Drew Studios, the Bendy cartoons." Joey smiled at me, slightly limited. I didn't think I'd say anything wrong. Take me a moment with the state of brain to remember, but I had in the end. "I love your cartoons," I said. It wasn't quite true. I seen them as a child, and I believe there have been some war-bond investments with the characters as well. I have a little memory of them. Boris is my favorite," I added. "Well, thank you," replied Joey, still time-limited. Quickly changed the subject. I thought this was going quite badly for some reason. "And what brings the two of you up to Atlantic City?" "Well, son, I always been a fan. I love places that light up the world. This city is like a living, breathing amusement park. You feel familiar with Bertram Not?" asked Joey with a review energy. I shook my head. "No. He's an incredible park engineer. He was working some new projects for me, and he's just suggested that I make a visit to make new developments happening here. Say, I should ring your dad. If there's something being built, my father's advancing it. I said, your father does well for himself. It was a statement that felt like a question. I suppose he does, yes. Joey smiled. Well, maybe someday he and I will work together on something. I do like working with the best. That was my yen. And you also work with Thomas Connor, correct? Joey smiled, fluttered slightly. I do. I heard there's some combinations over some machine or other. Careful, Bill. My gut told me this was dangerous territory. I couldn't let them know what would happen, that I knew there were dark secrets in the machine. I need to know more, if not for my sake, for Constance, brave Constance, who told my father. Who told you that? You know my Tom? Asked Allison sweetly. There was no hint of digging at something deeper in how she spoke. Yes, I do, I replied. I turned to her and was immediately overcome by radiance once more. Work with Jen sometimes as a lark. I enjoy fixing things. I met Mr. Connor on occasion. This machine you mentioned, have you seen it? Asked Joey. That fear, that feeling that been haunting me ever since yesterday, it filled the top of full just then. He couldn't know that I had seen it. He couldn't know any of things I know. I won't tell him. No. I don't really know what it is. He didn't talk much about it. Just that it had been the project for someone in New York. You said that, did he? The man looked very different suddenly, like a dark cloud had passed over him. Nothing has changed, not his smile or his posture. But I could sense something dangerous. What does it do? I asked it. I hadn't meant to be direct. I intended to quite the opposite, to stop talking about the subject, to compliment Allison's dress, to walk away and stand in the corner until dinner served. But somehow I asked my most desired question, the question I have since that day Mr. Connor and I fixed the machine. What does it do? Allison laughed then, a laugh that danced happily in the air. You will never get these boys to tell you anything about their secret inventions. Trust me, I tried. She winked at me. Joey leaned in with a slight smile. He said, Have you ever considered, my boy, that your reality is no more real than a dream that I had last night? I have not considered that. No, I replied. Well, consider it now. Well, the little dinner bell was rang at just that moment. Little saving grains in the strange situation, I parted ways with them and took my assigned seat down at the table between Mrs. Sawyer and Mr. Brown, two very harmless people who loved my father occasionally. Therefore, I could say nothing exactly to ruin his reputation. For my part, I was glad to be far away from the animator and the voice actress. I had no idea what he meant, and I had no desire to consider my own existence in that way. I think for a moment, and then my reality was so unbelievable, it could only be a nightmare for him. Maybe he was right in that way. Maybe everyone's right. Maybe Constance has a point. These people, Mr. Connor, Joey, even the magnificent Allison, these people were different somehow. They were up to something unnatural. What we have experienced, what had happened to Brandt, that was not something just happened. That was something created by humans, like the bombs that fell from the sky during the war. What sort of people invent something like that? What sort of people held a creature that stalked its prey like that? On the ground, down in the secret places that still existed from secret pasts. I need to speak to Constance again. I need to tell her about these people. I need to tell her she was right.